This story will not only touch your heart, but it will also help you learn English in a natural and simple way. As you listen, try to notice the words, the emotions, and the way ideas connect. This is one of the best ways to improve your English. Now, let's begin. My name is Adrian Cole, and I used to be someone who was always afraid. I was afraid to speak, afraid to try, and afraid to fail. I am 28 years old, and I work as a junior designer in a small company. On the outside, my life looked normal. I had a stable job, a small apartment, and a quiet daily routine. But inside, I was always fighting something invisible. That something was fear, and it followed me everywhere. Every morning, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. I would fix my shirt, take a deep breath, and tell myself, "Today, I will be more confident." For a few seconds, I almost believed it. But the moment I stepped outside, that confidence slowly disappeared. It felt like it was never real. At work, I had ideas. Good ideas, sometimes even great ones. But I never shared them. When my manager, Olivia, asked, "Does anyone have a suggestion?" my heart started beating fast. My hands felt cold, and my mind suddenly became empty. I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. A quiet voice inside my head always stopped me. It asked painful questions like, "What if your idea is stupid?" Or, "What if they laugh at you?" Or even worse, "What if you fail?" So I stayed silent, and every time I stayed silent, I felt smaller. One day, something happened that changed everything. It was a Monday morning, and our team was working on an important project for a big client. Everyone looked stressed. Deadlines were very close, and nothing felt perfect. Olivia looked around the room and said, "We need a fresh idea, something different, something bold." Suddenly, the room became quiet. At that moment, I had an idea. It was simple, but creative. I truly believed it could work. My heart was beating faster and faster. I told myself, "Say it, just say it." But then doubt came again, stronger than before. It said, "Don't do it. It's not good enough." I looked around the room. Everyone else was quiet too. Maybe they were also afraid, just like me. Olivia spoke again. "No one? Are we really out of ideas?" The moment felt heavy, like time had slowed down. I opened my mouth slightly, ready to speak, but then I closed it again. And just like that, the moment passed. Later that day, one of my coworkers, Marcus, stood up and presented an idea. As he spoke, my heart sank. His idea was very similar to mine. Not exactly the same, but very close. Everyone liked it. Olivia smiled and said, "This is great, Marcus. This is exactly what we needed." The room became full of energy. People started discussing his idea with excitement, and I just sat there quietly, watching everything. That moment hurt more than I expected. It was not just about the idea, it was about me. I realized something very important that day. My biggest problem was not my lack of skill. It was fear. And my biggest enemy was not other people. It was doubt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the meeting, about my silence, and about the opportunity I had lost. I asked myself a simple but painful question. How many chances have I already missed? The answer was clear and scary. Too many. The next morning, I woke up feeling different. I was not suddenly stronger or braver, but I was tired. I was tired of being afraid and tired of holding myself back. I made a quiet decision. I said to myself, "I don't want to live like this anymore." But deep inside, I knew the truth. Making a decision is easy, but changing is very hard. Fear does not disappear in one day, and doubt does not leave quietly. That same week, Olivia announced something new. She said, "There will be a presentation next Friday. Each of you will present your own concept. This is your chance to show your ideas." The moment I heard this, my heart dropped. A presentation in front of everyone felt like a nightmare. My first thought was, I can't do this. My second thought was even stronger. I don't want to do this. But then I remembered the question from the night before. How many chances have I already missed? I looked down at my desk, and I noticed that my hands were shaking slightly. This was my chance, maybe my only chance. But fear was still there, and doubt was louder than ever. It asked me questions again and again. What if you forget your words? What if your idea is bad? What if you embarrass yourself? I closed my eyes for a moment and took a slow breath. Then I whispered to myself, very quietly, what if I don't try? That question felt different. It did not feel like fear. It felt like truth. The days passed quickly. Every day, I tried to prepare for the presentation. I worked on my idea after work, wrote notes, and practiced speaking alone in my room. At first, it felt strange. I spoke slowly, made many mistakes, and sometimes stopped in the middle of a sentence because I didn't know what to say next. But I didn't stop trying. I kept going again and again. After some time, I noticed something small but important. Each time I practiced, my fear became just a little weaker. It did not disappear, but it changed. It became something I could face. However, doubt was still strong. Sometimes, in the middle of practice, I suddenly thought, this is not good. You're wasting your time. And for a moment, I almost believed it. But something inside me was slowly changing. A small voice, very quiet but clear, started to speak. It said, "Keep going." And this time, I listened. Friday was getting closer, and with each day, the pressure grew. The question was no longer simple. It became bigger and more important. Would I finally face my fear, or would I run away again? On Thursday night, I sat alone in my apartment. My notes were on the table, and my laptop was open. My presentation was ready, but my mind was not. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I asked myself one last question. Tomorrow, who do you want to be? The old Adrian, who stayed silent and afraid, or someone new who was ready to try? I didn't have the answer yet, but I knew one thing for sure. Tomorrow would change something in a big way, and I was both afraid and ready at the same time. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My alarm had not even rung yet, but my eyes were already open. For a few seconds, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Then I remembered. Today was the day of the presentation. My stomach felt tight, and my chest felt heavy. Fear was still there, strong and real. It had not disappeared overnight. But something was different. I did not feel like running away. I felt nervous, but also curious. Curious about what would happen if I actually tried. I slowly got out of bed and walked to the mirror. I looked at myself carefully. My face looked a little pale, and my eyes showed my worry. I took a deep breath and said softly, "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try." The words sounded simple, but they felt important. On my way to work, everything seemed louder than usual. The sound of cars, people talking, even my own footsteps felt heavy. My mind was full of thoughts. I kept imagining the worst situations. I saw myself forgetting my words, standing in silence, and people looking at me with confusion. But then I remembered something from my practice. Every time I made a mistake at home, I did not stop. I continued. Slowly, I began to understand that mistakes were not the end. They were part of the process. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere felt different. Everyone seemed more focused than usual. Some people were reviewing their notes. Others were quietly typing on their computers. I could feel the tension in the air. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. My presentation was there, ready. I read through my notes again and again. The words looked familiar, but my confidence still felt fragile, like something that could break at any moment. A few minutes later, Olivia walked into the room and said, "All right, everyone, let's begin." Her voice was calm but serious. One by one, people started presenting their ideas. The first presentation went well, the second one too. Everyone seemed confident. Everyone spoke clearly. With each person, my fear grew stronger. I started comparing myself to them. I thought, "They are better than me. I don't belong here." That was the voice of doubt again. It was quiet but powerful. Then, something unexpected happened. One of my coworkers, Lily, stood up to present. She was usually very confident, but this time she looked nervous. Her voice was not as strong as usual. She paused in the middle of her sentence and looked at her notes. For a moment, the room felt uncomfortable, but then she took a breath and continued. Slowly but clearly. She made a few small mistakes, but she did not stop. She finished her presentation, and when she was done, people smiled and nodded. Olivia said, "Good job, Lily. Thank you for sharing." That moment changed something inside me. I realized something important. Even confident people feel nervous. Even strong people make mistakes. But they still continue. That was the difference. It was not about being fearless. It was about moving forward, even with fear. My name was getting closer on the list. My hands started to shake again. My heart was beating fast, like it wanted to escape from my chest. I could feel every second passing. Then I heard it. "Adrian, you're next!" Time seemed to stop. For a moment, I could not move. My body felt heavy, like it was stuck to the chair. My mind went blank again. This was the moment I had been thinking about all week. This was the moment I was afraid of, but also the moment I needed. I slowly stood up. My legs felt weak, but they still moved. I walked to the front of the room. Each step felt louder than it should. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I stood there, in front of my team, in front of Olivia. For a second, I wanted to disappear. I looked at my notes. Then I looked up. My voice came out soft at first. "Good morning. Today, I want to share my idea." It was not perfect. It was not strong, but it was real. I continued speaking, slowly, carefully. I followed my notes, but I also tried to explain in my own words. After a few sentences, something surprising happened. I didn't stop. I kept going. Yes, my voice was shaking a little. Yes, I made small mistakes. At one point, I forgot a word and paused for a second. My heart jumped, but I remembered what I practiced, so I continued. I explained my idea step by step. I described how it could help the project. I even gave a simple example to make it clearer. As I spoke, I noticed something. People were listening. They were not laughing. They were not judging me. They were paying attention. That gave me a small sense of strength. Not a big one, but enough to continue. By the time I reached the end of my presentation, I felt something new. Relief, and something else. Pride. I finished my last sentence and took a small breath. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Olivia nodded slowly. "Thank you, Adrian," she said. Her voice was calm but thoughtful. Then she added, That was a very clear and creative idea. I blinked in surprise. I wasn't expecting that. She continued. I like how you explained it step by step. It's simple, but effective. A few people nodded. Someone even said, "Yeah, that makes sense." I felt something warm inside my chest. It was not just relief, it was something deeper. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. But the moment was not over yet. Olivia looked around the room and said, "Let's discuss Adrian's idea." My heart started beating fast again. This was a new kind of fear. What if they didn't like it? What if they found problems? What if everything went wrong now? The discussion began. At first, people asked simple questions. I answered them carefully. Then the questions became more detailed. Some people pointed out small problems. Others suggested changes. Each comment felt like pressure. Each question felt like a test. And slowly, doubt started to come back again. It whispered, "See? Your idea is not good enough." I tried to stay calm, but inside, I felt the old fear rising again, stronger this time. And just when I thought I was starting to feel confident, something unexpected happened that made everything more complicated. The room became quieter as the discussion continued. I stood there, trying to stay calm, but inside, everything felt unstable. Every question felt heavier than the last. Every comment made me think more deeply about my idea, and also about myself. Then Marcus spoke. He leaned forward slightly and said, "I think Adrian's idea is interesting, but I see a problem." My heart dropped. Marcus was confident, experienced, and respected in the team. When he spoke, people listened carefully. I felt a sudden wave of pressure. He continued, "The concept is simple, which is good, but I'm not sure it's strong enough for this client. They usually expect something more advanced." The word advanced stayed in my mind. Suddenly, doubt became louder. "See? He's right. You are not good enough. This is too simple." I felt my confidence start to shake again. My hands became colder. For a moment, I wanted to agree with him. I wanted to say, "Yes, maybe you're right," and just sit down. But something inside me stopped that reaction. It was that small voice again, the one that had been growing all week. "Stay, don't run." I took a slow breath. Marcus was not attacking me. He was sharing his opinion. And maybe, he was partly right. But that did not mean my idea had no value. I looked at him and said, slowly but clearly, "I understand your point, but I think simple can also be powerful." My voice was still not strong, but it was steady. The room became quiet again. I continued, "Sometimes, when we make things too complex, people don't connect with them. My idea focuses on clarity. It helps the message feel more direct and easy to understand." As I spoke, I could feel my fear, but I did not let it control me. This was new, very new. Marcus looked at me for a moment, then nodded slightly. "That's a fair point," he said. That small moment felt like a big victory. Not because I won the discussion, but because I stayed. I didn't run away. The conversation continued, but now it felt different. I was still nervous, but I was also part of it. I answered questions, accepted some suggestions, and explained my thinking when needed. For the first time, I felt like I belonged in that room. After the meeting ended, I walked back to my desk slowly. My legs still felt a little weak, but my mind was clearer. Lily came up to me and smiled. "You did really well," she said. I blinked in surprise again. "Really?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes. I could tell you were nervous, but you kept going. That's what matters." Her words stayed with me. That's what matters. Not perfection, not confidence, but continuing. Later that afternoon, Olivia called me into her office. As I walked toward her door, I felt nervous again. My mind started asking questions. Did I do something wrong? Is she going to criticize your idea? Was it really not good enough? I knocked gently. Come in, Olivia said. I entered the room and sat down across from her. She looked at me for a moment, then smiled slightly. I want to talk about your presentation, she said. I nodded, waiting. She continued, You surprised me today. My heart skipped a beat. I've noticed your work before, she said, but you usually stay quiet in meetings. Today was different. I looked down for a second, then said softly, I was really nervous. She nodded. I could see that, but you still spoke. And more importantly, you explained your idea clearly. She paused for a moment, then added, That's not easy. I felt something warm again in my chest. She continued, Your idea has potential. It needs some improvement, yes, but the direction is good. I want you to develop it further. I looked up quickly. Me? I asked, almost in disbelief. Yes, she said simply. You. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Just a few days ago, I was too afraid to speak. Now, I was being asked to lead part of the project. It didn't feel real. Olivia leaned forward slightly and said something that I will never forget. Adrian, confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first. Confidence follows. Those words stayed in my mind. Confidence doesn't come first. Action comes first. I left her office feeling different. Not completely confident, not completely fearless, but stronger. That evening, as I walked home, I thought about everything that had happened. The fear, the doubt, the moment I almost stayed silent again, and the moment I chose to speak. I realized something important. Fear had not disappeared. Doubt was still there. But they were no longer in control. For the first time, I was. I stopped walking for a moment and looked at the sky. It was quiet, and the air felt calm. I asked myself, what changed? The answer was simple. I didn't wait for fear to go away. I moved forward with it. But the story was not over, because facing fear once is not enough. Life will test you again. And soon, I would face an even bigger challenge, one that would push me further than I ever imagined. The next few days felt very different from my usual routine. I was still the same person, but something inside me had changed. I was no longer hiding from every challenge. Now I was walking toward them, even if I felt afraid. Olivia gave me the responsibility to develop my idea for the client presentation. This was not a small task. It meant I had to improve my concept, think more deeply, and prepare something strong enough for an important meeting. At first, the pressure felt heavy again. My old thoughts tried to come back. What if you fail this time? What if this is too much for you? But now, I knew something I didn't know before. Fear would always speak. That was normal. The real question was, would I listen to it? Each day, I worked step by step. I broke my idea into small parts. First, I focused on the main message. Then, I worked on the design. After that, I thought about how to explain it clearly. I made mistakes, changed things, and sometimes felt confused. But I didn't stop. I also asked for help. That was new for me. Before, I avoided asking questions because I didn't want to look weak. But now, I understood something important. Asking for help is not weakness. It is part of learning. I spoke with Lily about the presentation structure. I asked Marcus for feedback on the technical parts. At first, I felt nervous doing this, but something surprising happened. They didn't judge me. They helped me. Slowly, my idea became stronger. One evening, I stayed late at the office. The building was quiet, and most people had already gone home. I sat in front of my computer, looking at my final version. It was not perfect, but it was real. It was my work, my effort, and my voice. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid of my idea. I felt connected to it. The day of the client presentation arrived. This time, it was different from the team meeting. This was bigger, more people, more pressure, more expectations. We entered a large meeting room. The client team was already there, sitting across the table. They looked serious and focused. My heart started beating fast again. Fear was back, but this time it felt familiar. Not like an enemy, more like a signal that something important was about to happen. Olivia began the presentation. She introduced the project and the team. Then, one by one, my coworkers presented their parts. Finally, it was my turn. I stood up slowly. For a moment, I looked at the people in front of me. Then, I remembered something simple. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be clear. I started speaking. My voice was not perfect, but it was steady. I explained the idea step by step, just like I practiced. I used simple words, clear examples, and natural pauses. At one point, I showed a visual example on the screen. It helped make the idea easier to understand. As I spoke, I noticed something. The clients were listening carefully. One of them nodded. Another one leaned forward. That gave me energy. I continued. At the end of my presentation, I finished with a simple sentence. This idea focuses on clarity, connection, and impact. Then I stopped. For a second, the room was quiet. Then one of the clients smiled. I like this approach, he said. It's simple, but very effective. Another client added, Yes, it feels easy to understand. That's powerful. I felt a wave of relief and quiet happiness. Not because everything was perfect, but because I did it. I spoke, I shared, I didn't run. After the meeting, Olivia came up to me and said, You've grown a lot. I smiled slightly and said, I think I finally understand something. She looked at me with curiosity. What is it? I took a moment, then said, Fear doesn't disappear, but it doesn't have to stop us. She nodded. That day, I walked out of the office with a calm heart. The city looked the same, but I felt different. Lighter, stronger, more open. I was not a completely new person, but I was no longer the old one. And that was enough. Because growth is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming more of who you really are. Now let's continue with your English learning section. Idioms are special expressions in English where the meaning is different from the literal words. They are very common in speaking and listening, so learning them will help you understand real English better. Step out of your comfort zone means to do something that feels uncomfortable or new in order to grow. Example, I had to step out of my comfort zone to speak in front of others. Face your fears means to directly deal with what you are afraid of instead of avoiding it. Example, I decided to face my fears and give the presentation. A leap of faith means to do something even when you are not fully sure of the result. Example, speaking in front of the client was a leap of faith for me. Hold back means to stop yourself from doing something. Example, fear made me hold back my ideas. Break the silence means to start speaking after a period of not talking. Example, I finally broke the silence and shared my idea. Learn the hard way means to learn something through a difficult experience. Example: I learned the hard way that fear can cost opportunities. Come out of your shell means to become more confident and open. Example: over time, I started to come out of my shell. Try to notice these idioms when you watch or listen to English content. They will help you understand natural conversations better. Now let's learn collocations. Collocations are words that naturally go together in English. Learning them helps you sound more fluent and natural. Make a decision means to choose something. Example: I made a decision to change my life. Take a risk means to do something that may be difficult or uncertain. Example: I took a risk by speaking in the meeting. Gain confidence means to become more confident over time. Example: I slowly gained confidence after practicing. Overcome fear means to successfully deal with fear. Example: I overcame my fear of speaking. Share an idea means to tell others your thoughts or suggestions. Example: I shared my idea with the team. Face pressure means to deal with stressful situations. Example: I had to face pressure during the presentation. Build confidence means to develop self-belief over time. Example: practicing helped me build confidence. Miss an opportunity means not using a chance when it is available. Example: I missed an opportunity because I stayed silent. Try to use these collocations when you speak or write in English. Instead of saying random words, using collocations will make your English sound more natural and fluent. Keep practicing step by step. Real improvement comes from small daily effort. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me today. I hope this story helps you not only improve your English, but also believe in yourself a little more. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt afraid to try something new? What do you do when you feel doubt? And what is one small step you can take today? Write your answers in the comments. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep moving forward. See you in the next story.